All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is, I'm just adjusting my camera here just a little bit, so bear with me. All right, guys, it's a little after 12:30. It's Tuesday, it's Timeout Tuesday, and it's episode 92, so we're coming close on that 100 mark, which means that I've been presenting these videos for close to 100 weeks now. Sometimes they're more important than others. Sometimes they're a little more serious than the others. And today, is a pretty serious one. Uh, Two things kind of happened, or maybe I should say two pieces of information came my way this past week that were pretty serious stuff. And one of them I wasn't really planning on talking about on social media because it was kind of a personal, kind of hit pretty close to home thing. But then the second piece of information came my way and sort of tied something together to me. So the first piece of information that came my way happened about 9 days ago, and in this particular case, in Asheville, North Carolina, outside of a club at night, there was a shooting, and supposedly, obviously I wasn't there, but there was a shooting outside this club, and a whole bunch of bullets went flying. In some ways, fortunately, most of them missed targets. Whether there were targets actually or not, it seems like it was more like a random shooting. The police are saying maybe a revenge shooting of some kind, maybe some gang-related shooting, but really that part doesn't really matter because the outcome actually is really what matters here. In this particular case, while a lot of bullets went flying and most of them missed hitting anything, one bullet hit one person. They hit that person in the neck. That person happens to be my cousin's boyfriend. He is a young man. Might likely be paralyzed from the shoulders down. That's at least what the current information that we've gotten from the doctors are. And this was a completely random thing. He was vacationing in the area. Clearly, wasn't involved in anything. Didn't know anybody. We just happened to have been standing very literally in the wrong place at the wrong time. And as I said, one bullet hit one person, and has pretty effectively changed his life. Not only his life, but the life of many in my family. But the event was random. At least it appears that it was a random event. The second event, which is far less tragic than this one is, came to me from the Smithtown Patch at about 10:30 last night. A woman was in a parking lot of Whole Foods out in Lake Grove. About 10:30 or so at night, give or take. She called the police out about 10:30, so I'm assuming it's around that time. She'd gotten into her car. Somebody knocked on her window to ask for directions. I'm not exactly sure what her immediate response was, but he pulled out a gun, asked her to get out of the car. She got out of the car. He stole her car. She was driving a 2008 Chrysler Sebring. She wasn't driving a Ferrari. They weren't targeting, necessarily her car. Probably, I don't know. I wasn't there, but again, it just seems like another random thing. Clearly, less traumatic than that first story that I told, which was just absolutely terrible. But this is another case where, crime happens to people on a seemingly random basis. And, the question that really kind of came to my mind today was, what would you do in those situations? How would you react to reduce the possibility of you being a victim? I don't really know what my cousin's boyfriend did. I don't really know how much time he had. I don't know whether it was the first shot or the 10th shot that struck him. I don't know if he had any time to react, and I don't know what he did to react. But what would you have done in a situation like that? Have you ever given it any thought at all? And, do you think about it on a regular basis so that if it actually were to happen, you'd be able to react swiftly? It's not a good time to try to, Google what to do when you're in an emergency. You should really have this stuff, this information should be at your beck and call. In the case of the woman whose car was stolen from her, that could have ended well, actually, very similarly to what happened to my cousin's boyfriend. She could have just as easily tried to fight off this attacker. She could have resisted. She could have done any number of things. She could have been forced to stay in the car and drive the person to another location. So many things could have happened here that didn't happen, fortunately. But the question really is, what could you have done to reduce the possibility of being a victim, or react to the circumstance while it was happening? So, I'm gonna just tell you, without having obviously been in Lake Grove and without observing it and without seeing a police report, knowing anything else that happened, I will tell you this. It sounds an awful lot like this person was being watched and maybe even profiled as somebody who would probably get into their car, maybe pop open their phone, see what's going on social media before taking off. Maybe doing some things along the way that distracted her. Maybe even looking at her phone along the way, walking to her car. Now, certainly, I'm not accusing her of doing any of these things. I don't know her. I don't know what she did. Maybe she did absolutely none of these things. But I do know that when I watch people leave a building and walk to their car, their behaviors have become so predictable. Most of the time, they're looking at their phone as they're walking to the car. They get into the car, they close the door behind them, and before they even turn the car on, they start checking out what's going on their social media page. So I guess at the end of the day, what I'm really kind of get to is, if you've never taken any form of a self-defense course, or you've never done some research on your own and really got a mindset about what you would do in an emergency situation, you won't even realize that certain things that you can do can set you up to be a victim. And one of the things that we often talk about in our own self-defense courses and in our karate classes is that, if you look like a victim, meaning that you're distracted, you look like you're disoriented, you look like you don't belong in a particular place, don't look confident in where you're going, right away that makes you look like a victim. So, certainly staring at your phone, wearing earbuds, not paying attention to what's going on around you, all of these things make it very easy for someone to get up very close to you and gain access, physical access to you. And if you're doing that in an environment that is somewhat secluded, you've actually given the predator the two things that they really need, which is privacy and access. And those two things are the things that are the ingredients for turning you into a victim. So here's really what I'm kind of getting at, I guess, at the end of the day, is that if you've never done anything to teach yourself how to protect yourself, you should. If you're interested in learning more about what we do at the school, definitely give us a call, 631-499-0600. But if you're watching this and you're too far away, or it's not convenient for you to get out to us, or whatever the reason is, seek out something in your area. Try to find something that is not just learning how to punch and kick, but helping you to understand the